Most of the professional bodies in India were initiated in 60s, 70s, and at best in 80s. World has changed a lot in the last 30 years. Today, technology has made a lot of changes in the way we think, the way we act, and the way we perceive things. I think it is high time that some of these institutions have a relook at themselves, revisit their objectives, mission, and vision, and relaunch them to make it more relevant to the future of this country. I think it is very important to start with the emerging new needs of the Indian society. To be able to do that, you need a committee. These bodies can appoint an expert committee to review their work, to begin with a SWOT analysis of the work done by them in relation to the objectives, and also after a SWOT analysis, using the opportunities that are available, come up with a new strategic plan for the future. Whatever is the mission, vision, and values, they should be relevant to the next 40 to 50 years of our existence. The world is fast changing. I think what is relevant in the next 10 years may not be relevant after 20 years or 30 years, but doesn't matter. At least plan for the next 10 years. The following are the steps I recommend for any rejuvenation or audit or relaunching of these professional bodies. Step number one, appoint a facilitator if you like. If not a facilitator, have a review committee. Like the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad has set a wonderful example of every 5 years having a committee for future directions, or IMA review committee. And I had the pleasure of serving on one of those committees as a new faculty member in 1974-75 in a committee managed by Professor Rangarajan, Professor Vyas, and a large number of others. The composition of the committee is very important. The committee should consist of people with wisdom, experience, as well as those people for whom the future belongs. That is how in 1975, I as a young faculty member, though only about 20 years old, was put as a member of the committee to look at what is required for the future and so on. So the composition of the committee becomes very important. It should be a mixture of diverse kind of groups. If necessary, it is a good idea to associate people from outside these professional bodies who can take an objective view, and maybe some people who are committed to the country's cause also may be useful to have them. Number two, the process the committee adopts is very important. It has got to be a participative process where they interview and talk to all the stakeholders, including the people who are supposed to be beneficiaries of these bodies, members, I think people who managed this across the years, people who probably are constituents of full-time secretariat or employees of the current body, and some of the millennials who are having expectations from these bodies and so on. It is very important to interview, start with a SWOT analysis, identify opportunities, and prepare a strategic plan for the future. After they prepare a strategic plan, it is very important to put this plan for debate and discussion among the office bearers as well as members of the organization. And nowadays, it's very easy to do all of it because we have a lot of the technology available to reach every person for their views and so on. 90% of the persons may not give their views, but doesn't matter. At least some of them would have read it, and even those 10% who give their views can constitute a very important part of it. Once the views are obtained, consolidated, and strategies are accepted, I think then you need to look at the organizational structure. For example, in one of my recent talks, I have raised a question like a body like National HR Network, whether there is need for a secretariat. I have not taken any position on this. This is only to say this is an issue to be reviewed. It is quite possible that if you are a good secretariat, the review could indicate what the secretariat could do in future, assuming that everyone is going to be there and maybe more people will be added. I think new roles have to be identified as per the new strategy. Or it is also possible, given the technology and the robotic world, that you don't need a large secretariat. You may only end up with having a smaller secretariat and so on. This is only one small part of the issue. The major part of the issue is what is the process of the professional body achieving its own objectives. The new mission, new objectives, therefore new formats have to be thought of. For example, if some of them are banking on conferences, what is the role of conferences? If some are banking on monthly meetings, weekly meetings, what is the purpose these meetings are serving? In the days when I think social networks are so much prominent, it is very important to ask questions like whether these networks have made some of the previous activities redundant. Also, I think it is important to ask questions like whether these bodies are conducting programs which are rightfully to be conducted by academic institutions. Normally, we have seen with the onset of a large number of institutions, the same faculty are used by more than one institutions. For example, one of the chain of institutions that was started by the government of India in the last few years, whenever I visited some of these institutions, I found the same faculty teaching as visiting faculty in Institute X, Institute Y, Institute B, C, and so on. So I think this raises a whole question that whether the professional bodies also should use these very kind of faculty and repeat what the institutions are doing, or should they have a totally different kind of a thing. Research, for example, is claimed to be one of the most important things all these bodies are involved in. But I've rarely seen any professional body in India coming up with any good research kind of findings. So the institution or the body should revisit and say what is the way in which we can promote research. Professional bodies don't do research, but they certainly may encourage research, or they may start a wing to do research. Like in the case of the NHRDN, they started the Academy of HRD, and in the initial years there was a lot of research that got done. Over a period of time, for funding and other reasons, maybe that they may not have been doing enough, but at least one thing good was every doctoral student conducts some kind of a research and so on. It is not to say that this is wonderful, but I think there is a lot what has been accomplished in AHRD, maybe only a small percentage of what it could accomplish. But I think it's very important for every professional body to revisit their objectives and come up with new strategies, new action plans. Once they have done that, it is very important for the professional community to put a structure in place. So if you are clear of the objectives, mission and goals, then you are clear of the strategies, then the next thing to do is the structure, and of course processes are outlined by these institutions and so on. Once you do all of it, I think the institution is ready to be relaunched. I want to wish all the best for these professional bodies. I hope some of these thoughts will help you to re-audit, relaunch, rejuvenate, re-evaluate yourself and make a difference in the life of this particular country. I think India is a vast country. It's a leader in the world. It's going to be the leader, and India can do a lot. And we are facing lots and lots of challenges in the society. The challenges India faces, be it a water problem, climate change, global warming, poverty, farmer suicides, or any of these, or unemployment, all these are issues that are shared across the world. India perhaps could lead, and professional bodies could make a lot of difference in making themselves the biggest contributors to change and building a new society. All the best from TVRLS.